Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy Ramsey, Partnerships Manager here at the Tourism Industry Council of South Australia. This In Conversation series is a monthly program undertaken to keep South Australian, our industry, informed and engaged. I'll introduce our key speaker in a moment, but first just want to run you through a couple of housekeeping matters. If everybody could just please keep their microphone on mute. Oh, sorry, I was chatting away there and I forgot to take myself off mute. Sorry, guys, you think I'd know this better by now. I've done a few of them. Morning, everyone. I'm Kathy Ramsey, Partnerships Manager here at the Tourism Industry Council of South Australia. This In Conversation series is a program undertaken monthly to keep South Australian tourism industry and stakeholders engaged and informed. I'll introduce our speaker in a moment. However, I just want to run through a couple of housekeeping issues first. If we could all keep our microphone on mute, that would be great. We really like to make this an interactive session, so we encourage you to use the chat function for any questions or comments. We'll endeavour to work through that as we go through the session. However, we will allow enough time for Q&A as well. And the session will also be recorded and sent to all participants and also loaded onto our website for a continuing resource. Today, we are joined by Martyn Luck from Gallagher, the insurance partner for the Tourism Industry Council of South Australia. Martyn has 26 years commercial and corporate insurance broking experience and successfully has worked with a diverse range of clients across a multiple of industry sectors, providing sound insurance advice. His coalface experience and practical approach has helped him be a trusted advisor to the many SME and corporate businesses he works with. Good morning, Martyn.
Thank you very much, Kathy, and thank you for TIC-SA for allowing me to have this in conversation, and I'd like to welcome everyone who's registered and who's online. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Martyn.
Thank you.
So we understand for all of you guys on the call and our much larger industry, we understand insurance is a big problem for operators. Many unable to find an insurance company willing to cover their business, and some are paying monstrous insurance premiums. So today, with Martyn's expertise on the session, we're just going to really look at that underlying issue, what to look at when we're looking at insurance for an insurance broker, making sure we're getting the most out of our coverage as well. So Martyn, it's a big issue, isn't it, insurance at the moment?
It certainly is, Kathy. It's probably the hardest market conditions that I've faced in my 27-year career, including the HIH situation and the GFC, and of course September the 11th, all those years ago. So it's certainly challenging for not only more so for our clients, but also us and also insurers. So it's that tripartisan challenge we all share, and we all need to work collaborative and work together, and that's where we can provide some insights on how best to navigate your way through this current market.
Yeah, absolutely. So what has changed in the insurance equation in obviously the last 12 months from perhaps an insurer's perspective to start off with, Martyn?
Yeah, so we started to see some trends, say 18 months, 2 years, or say towards the back end of 2019, we started to see some trends where insurers starting to get a little bit risk adverse. They're asking a lot more underwriting questions, want to know a little bit more information about the client than they normally would. And then we started to see endorsements and clauses added to policies, increased premiums. And we see those things change. And that sort of changed with the fact of course, the bushfires, all the weather-related perils that we're seeing, bushfires, storms, floods, cyclones. But unfortunately, we are also impacted, not just what happens in Australia, but also globally around the world. As I quite often say to my clients, and the old saying is all roads lead to Rome, all roads lead to London. So whether you're in Germany, France, America, London, unfortunately, is the insurance mecca, and when they're sustaining losses, everyone feels the impact across the globe. So whether if you're in Italy, France, whatever, the insurance is still an issue for all sectors around the globally. But we'd like to more focus in on what's relevant for our clients and your industry partners, is in also in your clientele, for what's in Australia, what's affecting them mostly. And we often see is what we call insurers' capacity. Now, all insurance is backed by private enterprise. And of course, when people are not getting the investment returns, not putting money behind insurance companies, means that they're a little bit more conscious about what risks they want to write. And of course, with the losses that's been sustained across the industry in the last 2 years, they're saying it's become unaffordable to insure some businesses. Or if we are going to insure the businesses, we're going to be a lot more stringent in our underwriting requirements, a lot more stringent in our premium, and also risk selection. So that's how we've seen the market change. And I was going to provide a brief overview today of basically talking about the general overview of what's happening in the market, specific market conditions by insurance class. And I'll limit that to property and liability, which is more important because public liability is an issue, as well as property insurance. For instance, if you're running a B&B or what we have trouble with is the country hotels and pubs, things like that as well. So we'll try to cover off some broad areas. However, everyone's insurance situation is quite unique to the business, the person, their turnover, and how they see risk and those sort of things. So we'll provide a very generic overview, but we're more than happy to have some questions off air if clients specifically want to talk about their particular needs. So we're more than happy to do that as well. We'll also talk about the market cycle, how the insurance markets tend to go in cycles. And then a little bit about Gallagher and our partnership and what we do to the clients, or what you should be getting from your insurance broker or insurance advisor or insurer. So happy to work through that.
Oh, absolutely. That would be fabulous, Martyn. And particularly, I've already seen a comment come up from Trevor Anderson regarding business interruption, so insurance. So yeah, thank you, Trevor, and to everybody on the call today. Please pepper your questions through that chat function, and I can help address those with Martyn. But furthermore to this is being recorded, and we will send out a recording including Martyn's contact details post this session if you would prefer to have a conversation offline with Martyn as well. So Martyn, the current market and what sort of has led to the current market, let's touch on that.
Yeah, so that's right. So basically we're sort of saying over the past 2 years we've seen the market harden. As a consequence, prices have increasing, the appetite for risk has tightened. So where insurers traditionally would say, yeah, we'd love to write this sort of business and provide the security, we no longer feel uncomfortable providing insurance for that particular sector or that particular business. And we're seeing evidence of, at the moment though, I reckon from my experience and Gallagher's experience, we're seeing the prices level out a little bit. It's not going skyrocketing to 20 to 30, 40, even in some cases at 400% increases in premiums. So we're seeing that flatten out. But across the board, insurers are assessing which areas of the market they want to participate in. And overall, this is significantly less capacity than there has been previously. Now, when we talk about capacity, it's where an insurer, say, for instance, looks at the hospitality sector. They might say, look, we wish not to play too much into that space. So therefore, they've reduced capacity, which means they're only going to write what they feel like they want to write. They get a lot of underwriting submissions, and they're just picking and choosing which particular clients they want. And that comes down to the risk management, the type of businesses, and also what we talk about, the whole management of that particular business.
And I could understand, obviously the recent volatility of the travel industry.
Correct.
Probably is seeing why many of our operators are finding it a big issue at the moment.
That's exactly right. And, as I sort of say, right across the whole spectrum, if you're an event organizer, so trying to get insurance for events and cancellations, and then you've got travel insurance or property insurance or liability as a tourist operator. So it's not just singled out to any particular business. So it's across all industry sectors. But more specifically, we'll hone in on the tourism sector. But as I said, it's across the board. So if you're a manufacturing, you've got an issue. If you're a professional services business, the market's hardened for yourselves as well. So it's not just targeted just purely on tourism.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So just going back to the question before, there's what we call the COVID-19 test case, where the Insurance Council of Australia has put some test cases up to do with business interruption as a result of COVID. In the first round of the test case, it found in favour of the insureds. The second test case, which just recently got announced, it found in favour of the insurers. So there's still a lot of appeals. We'll be going to the High Court. I don't see any result from this interruption, this COVID-19, these legal cases getting much traction in the next 12 to 18 months, purely because of the size of the cost of the claims for the clients, but also the insurers. They're always going to appeal until it gets to the point with the final decision. But having said that, it also comes back to what I say is the devil in the detail. What is your actual policy wording say? And in some cases, the COVID must be at the premises, or the communicable diseases at the premises. There's all sorts of different clauses, a whole range of different insurance policies. So that's why with the test cases, they've put as many policies up as possible to try and set a precedent to get that going. So it's basically watch this space in relation to the COVID-19 test cases. But as a result of what we've seen with these test cases, the insurers are now tightening up their wordings, putting more endorsements, more exclusions on the policy, which is making it very clear as to what is covered and what is not covered. And so basically, it's the total coronavirus exclusion across all policies.
Right.
So that's what we're seeing, whether it be property, liability, professional indemnity, cyber. So as a result, they've tightened up their wording and making it, quite clear that they're not picking up that insurance.
That's an interesting point. Thanks for sharing that, Martyn.
That's okay. Yeah, that's good. And then, so then if we look at what critical factors are affecting the availability of insurance, we look at, you've got catastrophe, natural events. So over the past decade, we've seen increased prevalence of extreme weather events and large individual fire losses. We look at example, we've got cyclone conditions up to northern Australia, then we've got the east coast, and then of course we had the major bushfires last year that affected, or 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, that affected Adelaide, Kangaroo Island, Victoria, New South Wales. And they had a devastating effect on clients, people, livelihoods, communities. And some people were insured and some people weren't insured. And it gets down to, when you look at the insurance, and this is why each individual case is separate. Some people are risk adverse with their fire. Some people aren't concerned about their insurance. And that's where we would get in and ask the questions, what if this happened? What if that happened? What would you do? So this is about understanding each individual's risk requirements, what they want to insure. And what we see, unfortunately, is that a lot of people were underinsured in those fires because they don't take the time to review some of their sums insured. So that's one of the key parts that we like to get involved. But the other thing too is we look at, so that's the natural events, the natural perils. Then we look at the diminishing insurer investment returns. So with the low interest rates, the insurers aren't getting their return on their investment, which obviously affects their profitability. And with that, they also have the reinsurance market, because the insurance companies also reinsure their insurance. So just so people understand the reinsurance, you've got an insurance company, say like a CGU. CGU insure your home, but then they also have reinsurance. So if they have like the bushfires where they have a $5 billion loss, that is reinsured with another reinsurance company. And of course, at the end of the day, everyone keeps paying. So then the reinsurance puts the rates up, CGU need to put their premiums up, and then that's how it's there's a flow-on effect. And then we look at the public liability aspect is the increased litigation from class action activity. So there's greater regulatory scrutiny, basically in relation to the litigation. Is that I think we need some tort reform as a country. You've only got to find a small amount of negligence for there to be a claim. We recently had a claim where people were on a trampoline, they hurt themselves. It's a $5 million claim. As a result of that claim, the insurer just said, we're no longer writing leisure activity in Australia. That's it, just pulled out because the litigation is too in favour of the consumer. This is what the insurers say to us. And it's very difficult for people to run those leisure businesses, which is we talk about, it's been in the Sunday Mail and around Australia, is about the leisure, the amusement rides. The Royal Show would have had some issues with their ride operators getting insurance, and that's purely because of the litigation and the class actions and the increased costs. For instance, we know that an insurer used to run a leisure facility, and they would collect a certain amount of premium, say maybe $1 million a year in premiums from all their particular clients. But when you've got claims that the claims history sitting at $3 or $4 million, the company that's providing the security behind that insurer says, well, we no longer want to, we're losing money hand over fist. We no longer want to support your facility. Therefore, that insurer then ceases providing insurance. And of course, then as one goes, the next one goes. And then of course, the last two or three that are left to insure that put the premiums up because they're accepting more of the risk, or they decline risk because they're saying, no, your business doesn't meet our risk requirements, therefore we're not prepared to give our security to your business. But I'll talk more about what the strategies our clients can use going forward when that happens. So
that would be great, Martyn, because it's good that you've given the overarching perspective there, and I'd love to drill down on that to go, well, what does that mean for our operators on the line here if they're faced with that situation? What are some steps they can do?
Absolutely. So that's what I will cover off shortly. I'll go through basically what you should be doing, navigating what you need to be doing to get through the hard market, and what advice we can give you in relation to that. So
that would be great. Sorry, I'm known for jumping the gun sometimes.
That's okay. Yeah, no, all good. So, operating in a hard market brings its own challenges. It has significant implications on risk management and renewal strategy. So when you get your insurance renewal, you need to be looking at what we say is a long term in advance. So if your policy is due in we look to say 12 weeks, at least you should be saying, right, when's our insurance full due? Okay, 31st of March. We need to be starting this on the 31st of December, or engaging with our insurance provider. Or your insurance broker should be making contact with you and saying, we got your renewal coming up. We know there's going to be an issue. And insurers will always give as much notice as they possibly can to the broker or to the advisor. And if your advisor's not on top of that, then he or she will then look to say, okay, we've got an issue, Mr. Client. Your insurer's declined to offer renewal. So this is what we need to do to get you insurance. But unfortunately, from our experience and what we've seen from a couple of members that have come to us from TICSA, is that their insurance provider or their insurance broker, advisor, etc., has come to them with 2 weeks to go and said, I can't get you insurance. Now, he or she should have had that conversation 6 weeks or 7 weeks out and said, look, with your particular industry, whether it being a camel ride operator, whether it be a outback farm stay, whether it be a country hotel or motel or a publican, I think we might have an issue this year. So you need to manage the expectation and say, this is what we need to be doing. So the advice we can give is to manage your renewals early, to enable lead time for presenting, reviewing, negotiating risk, and discuss your options with insurers.
Really good point. Thank you, Martyn, because particularly, you know, like you said, if your broker's only coming to you 2 weeks prior, then you're possibly putting yourself in a very high risk state of potentially not being insured.
Correct, that's right. And look, legally, we are the insurers, and we only have to give you 14 days notice to say, look, we can't get you insurance. So if they come 2 weeks, they're just complying with the legislation. But what we find in the current insurance market, we're saying to the insurers and our partners, we want 6 weeks notice. If you're not going to offer renewal, or if you're not going to support our clients, can you give us at least 6 weeks to 8 weeks notice that you're not going to offer renewal? Because that case, then I can come and meet with the client or discuss with the client and say, okay, we've got an issue, but we've got 6 weeks to sort it. Because some clients may have to implement risk management strategies, may have to change their policies and procedures. So there's a whole lot of raft of things that can happen. And if you come with 2 weeks, then the poor client's backed into a corner. And that's where they get into trouble.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll just pipe in there, for those of you who are our members who are Quality Tourism accredited, you know, that risk management is all part of your Quality Tourism accreditation framework. And a lot of business policies and procedures sit in there, and it all feeds into, you know, your risk assessment by an insurance broker as well. So if you need some assistance on that side of things, and you are Quality Tourism accredited or want to look at it, it definitely does help when it comes to Martyn knocking on your door, wanting to talk to you about your insurance renewal as well.
Absolutely. And we look reassessing risk programs and policies. So we look at the current climate and consider innovative strategies or restructuring or changing their risk profile. The other one we look at is developing high quality submissions to insurers. So we, as your broker, have to sell your business to the person who's providing security. And sometimes it's behind a screen, like a Zoom or a WebEx meeting, to say to an insurer, we want you to provide security behind this business. And this is the reason why we want you to provide the security behind the business, because they're doing this, 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 and this. They've never had claims. So what we're saying to clients, you have to go above and beyond what you would normally do to improve your risk strategy, because we have to convince the insurers to provide the cover to, or give us a decent or a good insurance premium to your business. So we have to, because we, as an insurance broker, we represent you into the insurance market. So we say to our clients, look, we need to make sure this is all sorted. We've seen clients in the past where they've said, we've got no risk management. We just come and sign up, do this. And I say, well, look, we're going to have to change that. We have to then tell the insurer, what are you doing differently? How are you responding to this? You know, we can talk about, you know, this might be this safety feature. This is what you do, or this is what our firefighting equipment is. This is our liability risk. You know, we use CCTV cameras. We have login profiles. We all sorts of different risk strategies depending on your unique business. And we'd provide options for you and say, okay, look, I think could you improve that? We ask those what happens if this happens? We try and preempt the insurer's questions to try and to sell the business to the market. We also like taking a diverse approach. We, as Gallagher, we have access to local and international insurance providers applying expertise and looking at different pricing models. So we have Gallagher's being an international, we have access to all the local insurers, but we also have access to Lloyd's of London. We have our own insurance broker network within Lloyd's. And I said a lot of businesses are placed in through Lloyd's, and we're lucky enough to be an international global broker that we can get access to those markets that normal traditional suburban advisors or in other small sort of insurance brokers don't have access to those markets. So we try and think of innovative ways, but when you start going to those international markets, the premium does get expensive, but we will always try to find you the cover you need. Unfortunately, some business can't operate without insurance, so it's one of those necessities.
No, and Martyn has worked with many of our members over the last 18 months, particularly as Gallagher's come on to be TIC SA's insurance partner of choice, who have been faced with these challenges, to try and support them and help them get a successful outcome as well.
Yeah. So when we look at specific, I'll talk about some property insurance, which is traditionally buildings and infrastructure and things like that. What the challenges we're seeing at the moment is, properties located in high natural catastrophe areas, and unfortunately, a lot of caravan parks and parks, leisure facilities, and all those are in the regional areas. And this is what's becoming challenging, because the insurers are saying, well, this particular property is in a high bushfire zone, therefore we can provide the cover, but this is our premium, or no, we're not going to provide insurance. So therefore, what we say to our clients, what other risk management strategies can you provide? Is there clearing? Is there perfect separation between your buildings to lessen the fire spread? That's where we get involved. We also see businesses that may have what we call the expanded polystyrene, which is the EPS, which is basically like a cool room material, which is used for, whether it be insulating buildings. That's a real issue to get insurance for, because it's high fire viability. In South Australia here, we've had the largest insurance property loss in history, which is the Thomas Food fires. And that was a result of what we call the EPS, which is expanded polystyrene. So once it catches fire, they can't put it out. It's basically what they call asset protection. We also look at buildings, of course, the ACP, which is the aluminium composite paneling, which has created issues for property. Timber construction of properties, country locations, and asbestos is the next big one. Like, I'll give you a real live example. I've got a client who's just purchased a building in the city, and it's got an asbestos roof, and we are finding it very difficult to get insurance for him because of the cost to clean up the asbestos is actually more than to replace the asbestos with a aluminium roof or metal cladding roof. So asbestos is becoming a major issue to insure. And then, of course, if we do find an insurer that's prepared to insure his building, well, it's going to be expensive, because there's not many people that will give the cover. So if you're looking at new properties, or that the strategies might be, okay, Martyn, over the next 12 months, we're going to look to remove the ACP paneling, or we're going to look to move the asbestos. So then we'd be able to sell a story to the insurer to say, yes, it's here now, but the client's going to implement this program in the next 12 months to reduce it, which will then make the property more attractive. So please support our client. So these are the challenges we're seeing around the actual property space, which is mainly the fire and in the regional zones.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Martyn, that you share some of those examples and particular materials, if they're in your building, that provide challenges, because that also feeds back to the organisation in ways to, well, where should you be looking at your CapEx, your maintenance budgets for the future years as well. So
absolutely
helps just you guys direct that, big picture thinking as well in terms of an organisation and what you should be doing in terms of your improvements. Whilst it might improve a consumer side of things as well, it's the flow-on costs you want to try and look at, your operational costs as well.
Correct, that's exactly right. And then we look at liability insurance. So I'll just cover off. It's continuing to be subject to increases regardless of claims or activity or turnover or what you do. A lot of it comes down to litigation. Unfortunately, we do need, I think we need some tort reform in Australia. Some states are worse than others in relation to, you've only got to prove a small part of negligence, and the operators are found, our clients are found liable. Simply, we had a situation where they had a small campfire. The parents were inebriated, fell asleep. The 2-year-old daughter stepped into the fire, got burnt. They were successful in suing the park operator for a large sum of money, but they said there should have been better barriers. But then again, if you put barriers and close the fire and you take away that experience. So it's a challenge for our clients. Yes, you can put all these risk management strategies in, but your clients are coming there because they want a bushfire, they want a campfire, they want to enjoy themselves. So it's that balance between providing for the members, to providing experience for their clients, but also providing a safe environment. And unfortunately, there's always going to be situations that lead to claims, but you've got to try and reduce that. But we see, a lot of sexual misconduct claims, high what we call worker to worker exposure, which is contractors and subcontractors who are injured, then making recoveries against the host employer or their contractor or the principal contractor. So people, subcontract out cleaning of their hotels, motels, cabins, etc. They get hurt whilst on the job. Then under common law, they can make a claim against the person who's contracted them. So we're seeing a lot of these worker-to-worker exposures. Also see a lot of workers' compensation recovery claims as well. So that's becoming quite challenging, especially in the hospitality sector. Then we look at, obviously, amusement rides that lift and spin and greater experience. So that's a real challenge. Yeah, trampoline and inflatable entertainment centres, or indoor playgrounds. These are all creating challenges, and the challenges is what can we do to our clients, and risk management. I keep honing in on risk management, but that's the key, to be able to say, this is what we go above and beyond. This is how we can prevent a loss from occurring, Mr. Insurer or Mrs. Insurer.
Yeah. If you could take us through some of that, some of those tools that accompany our members and operators on this call, what can they do to help their own insurance situation through those risk management strategies? What's some of the tangible things that operators should be looking at right now within their own businesses?
Yeah, so within their own businesses, you need to look at your policies and procedures right across the board, whether it be to employing staff or building a new infrastructure or a new playground or a new thing, is sort of running through those what if scenarios. Okay, is this a safe environment? What if someone was to climb here? Can we change this? Can we do this? Do we really, what's also, yes, it's good to create that experience for clients, but if it's only generating this much income, maybe you need to refocus on other parts of your business, because we're saying this 5% of your turnover is creating 95% of the premium. So if we move that, that's where we also look around and say, as I said, each case is quite unique, Kathy, so without going into real specifics, but this is where we would say, okay, out of all the activities your business does, the insurer has an issue with point 1 and point 2. So what are we doing to lessen the risk? And they say, well, they're concerned with trip and fall. So it might be, okay, we have high visibility, we've got special trip hazards, those sort of things we're installing to prevent that from occurring. And it also might say, look, that's only generating 5% of your turnover, but again, 60% of your premiums weighted towards that. So would you like to change that? Do you want to do anything different? And some people say, no, well, I think that's where our business is going to grow. So therefore, we look to then provide further advice. And sometimes we would refer them to an external risk management company that can, provide, okay, this is the non-slip material you need, or this is the barrier that you'd need to install. But when we, as I said, when we go to remarket or go to discuss your particular business with an insurer, having all that ammunition makes it a whole lot easier for us to get, one, to get the cover, and two, to get a nice premium.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think what you shared is a really good insight there, Martyn, in terms of that conversation you should be having with your broker.
Yes.
To identify, where are the potential hurdles in terms of, insurance, because it's about that insurer's perspective. And you sitting in the organisation, we're all, when you see things enough, you don't pick up on it to be a potential risk, but it's having that outsider's view. So it's a really good insight, guys, that if you're not having this conversation, going back and drilling down with your broker on, what are the hurdles, and asking those what if questions, and then going, but then what if I did this? Would that help it? Looking at it in terms of your revenue as well, and how much revenue does, if it contributes, if that risk is contributing factor to revenue for your business as well.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. And what we also say to our clients is, look, when we look at the businesses, we actually look at, as I said, we do the whole risk profiling, and we might say, look, that's great, but we also touch base with the insurer and say, what claims have you experienced with these particular type of operators? So that when we go to meet with the client, we can say, okay, the insurer is concerned because they've had 3 or 4 claims this year in relation to this. Could your business be faced with these? Oh, yes, we could be faced with that. Okay. So to counteract their argument with the insurer, what risk management, what could you do differently to make that part of your business more attractive? So we try and hone in and look for claim examples, claim trends, because we're saying this is where claims are trending. So therefore, then we can try to advise and say, okay, once if you did this, or we tweak this or change that, or we outsource that part of your business so someone else has that exposure. Again, that's that risk management, whether you either accept it, transfer it, or avoid it. And that's the conversation piece we have, Kathy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think perspective is a really important word I'm going to use here, because I've done it. I've myself, guys, spent 20 years in the industry, and you have your own perspective when you're sitting in the organisation, but having those healthy discussions and getting that insurance perspective, it could be just little small fixes as well to really help premiums on your side as well. So one thing Martyn does do, and it's a very generous offer from Gallagher's, is they offer no obligation, but they do that insurance health check and a comprehensive review of your insurance program to bring up those what if questions for you. So feel free to reach out and connect with Martyn if you want some more guidance on this area as well. He's definitely the expert, as we can see here.
No, well, we try to be, but look, just I want to leave some time for a couple of questions if we can. But with us expertise, I've just thought a little bit about Gallagher. What we try and do is there's 4 main steps we look at: is building strong relationships ahead of renewal, which is key, starting your process early, making sure you understand your client's business fully, the inside and out sort of stuff. But also talk about their future plans. We say to the clients, well, where do you see your business in 2 to 3 to 5 years? And then that will determine what conversations we have, etc. So starting your renewal preparations early, so getting 3 months ahead of the game. Call up your insurer and say, hey, my insurance is due in June, but where we're looking at, what do you see any issues with my renewal? Is there going to be any problems? And look, just start that conversation early. Make sure you provide, or your broker or yourself, or it should be providing really detailed information about your risk profile in a positive term. Why should that insurer put their security and their backing behind you and your business? That's what we have to say. Is if you're on the other side of the fence, would you invest your capital into that business? So we try and say, let's say, put yourself in the insurer's shoes. Would you be happy to cover your business? And that's what we sort of try and look at, is try and turn the tables and have those challenging conversations, but it's robust and it's all for the benefit of the client to get the better result. And also, of course, to clients, you're going to need to be open and flexible to innovative ways of structuring your insurance program. So we may, again, that might be, as we talked about before, that activity is only 5% of your business, but 60% of your premium. So why don't you get rid of that and focus on this? Or perhaps this is a more profitable area that you need to go on, because insurers are going to have real concerns with that. So there's all those little things that we talk about as being open and flexible to changing your business or changing what you do, yeah, so it's just one of those things that we have the conversation, and if you're adamant that that's what you want to do and that's where the business wants to go, well then we try and build more risk management or profile, or how can we present that better to the insurer, how can we improve that risk. So that's a little bit about what we do and how we like to partner. And as Kathy said, we're happy to offer a free health check. We're happy to sit down and have a look through your business, understand what you do, and say, look, I think your policy meets the requirement, or your policy has a couple of these exclusions which does concern us, and this is why it concerns us. Therefore, you need to have a conversation with your advisor or insurer, or broker.
Yeah, no, thank you, Martyn. I think you've really raised some valuable points for everybody, and a couple of the key takeaways is from mine is, and I've written it down myself for TIC SA as well. It's about they 12 weeks out, start looking at our insurance. But it's also about having that conversation, making sure you're having that conversation. Don't be reactive to your broker, be proactive and have the conversation. And they're the ones that hold a lot of knowledge, as we know Martyn has shared with us on the call. So make sure you're picking them of that knowledge. And they're here to work for you guys. So make sure you really drill down and have those conversations, pick them of the knowledge to ultimately get the best outcome for your business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to have some questions, but I know there was some questions that people had already asked, so I'm happy to work through whatever's easier, Kathy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll work through the questions. I've got some that has already come through, but first we'll just circle, and anybody else on the call, feel free to jump anything on the chat function as well. I might just deviate from the normal plan, but if you want, Trevor, you're more than welcome to come off of microphone and have a quick chat to Martyn. If you're welcome to come off mute, Trevor. I can see you've just done that. You've done some great feedback on risk. Can we talk about risk in relation to business interruption insurance? Over to you, Trevor.
Thanks, Kathy. So Martyn, the COVID BII situation has really raised a flag for us. There's a lot of their claim is we had no intention of insuring for a pandemic, but in any of our insurance policies, that's not stated. They do talk about the Quarantine Act, but so we actually read that quite closely and came to the conclusion that that we should be covered under COVID, and we may well still be covered after we get through all this legal stuff. But around that, some of the other information that I've become aware of is that only about 5% of business interruption insurance claims are paid. And is that correct? And if so,
no. Sorry.
How do we go about managing? Presumably, some of those claims are associated with bushfires or property damage or whatever. So how do we go about dealing with that? And is BII actually worth the money? Because it does seem to be quite expensive.
Yeah, so Trevor, look, I'll answer this very generically with not knowing your personal circumstances, but with the test case, it talks about the Quarantine Act and the Biosecurity Act, because the Biosecurity Act was the new one that came in. However, the actual, it comes down to the legal intention of the wording, and again, this is why it will be going to the High Court, and the legal representatives by both parties are fighting and saying, well, no, it's not covered. Yes, it is covered. So this will just go on forever until it reaches the final determination. But however, there's other exclusions within business interruption policy. Looks at, is it at the premises? Is it near adjacent? Is it near to? Is it so there's all sorts of different conditions, and every policy is different, whether you look at a business pack policy, an industrial special risks policy, or another property insurance policy. It really depends on the actual wording. But a lot of the time with what we've seen, like with the bushfires, is a lot of clients are underinsured. Scary fact, many years ago when they had the Victorian bushfires, I think the insurance counsellor said there was about 70% of people were underinsured. So that's one, obviously, and this is across domestic insurance, talking householders, but it also with the business interruption. Business interruption is key to getting correct. Unless you provide your profit and loss statement to your insurance advisor or insurance broker, and you work through that and provide the right cover, therefore then what happens, people get into traps because the insurer says, well, hang on a minute, you're underinsured by 40% or 50%. Then they apply the underinsurance clause in the policy, which is average or co-insurance, and this is how they're reduced. So if the business interruption is correct, businesses will survive. And if you don't getting that advice on your business interruption, or your broker's not having those conversations about your gross profit, you should be advising them or seeking advice elsewhere, because that's key to your business survival. For example, if you're in a remote area, you might want to look at an 18-month indemnity period for business interruption insurance. If we insure some big office towers in the CBD, and we have a 36-month indemnity period, which is 3 years, because the time you get through council approval, architects, designs, arguing, getting quotes, dealing with the insurer, the insurance assessor and builders, it could be 3 years before your building's up and running again. So I could talk quite extensively on business interruption, because I do like it, because it puts insureds back into a position where they can look after their staff, their family, the community. It's critical that you get it right, and there's so many valuable reasons why the businesses should get it right, especially in regional towns. If you employ people, you also have a community responsibility. That's the way that I look at it. So now your question is good, and I'm more than happy to talk more specifically about your situation off air, Trevor, because I need to probably delve into a bit of personal information which we wouldn't want to discuss over the Zoom meeting, Trevor. But thank you for the question.
Great, and thanks, Martyn, for that comprehensive reply as well.
Yes.
A couple that have come through prior to the session. One is obviously around camper trailer and caravan hire, struggling to find insurance. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's coming back and asking the questions, what and determining what are the hurdles to not being able to attain the insurance. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. And it comes down to a whole, I think Cam sent that question, it comes down to a whole range of situations. Is what's your conditions of hire, what's your again, your risk management. But in relation to camper trailer and caravan hire, there is limited markets available.
Okay.
So that's the issue. They don't have 5 or 6 insurers wanting that business. So therefore you get, tunneled into dealing with 1 or 2 insurers who will provide the cover. But that's where we have a chat. And yes, he said that they do put limitations and exclusions, but we try and chat to his insurers and say, well, how can we get around that limitation? What would it take? What would it take for my client to remove that? Or if we got rid of that part of the clause, what would I need to do to remove that exclusion or that limitation? And sometimes insurers says, I don't care what they say or do, that is the limitation, they take it or leave it. But again, having that conversation, the old question is, if you don't ask, you don't get. So we say, okay, if they pay a bit more premium, will they get that removed? There's always room for negotiation. It's how we got to sell it. And if the clients don't give us the tools and the ammunition to sell the business, then it makes it difficult to have that argument. But if a client's got robust risk management and provides a very good argument as to why they should get the cover, then I can go in really hard and really push the insurer for a response in favour of the client. Or we get a negotiator clause or a cover or a limitation that's mutually suitable. Yeah.
Thanks, Martyn.
Right.
Yeah, appreciate that. Now, Renee, and I saw you sent this message, so I was about to touch on it, but Renee, you're more than welcome to come off. Thanks for popping it on the chat for everybody to see as well. You're more than welcome, as Trevor did, to come off mute and have a quick chat to Martyn if you wish. Renee, obviously talking about COVID, and yeah, the challenges that does present, and potentially how a small business operator would they potentially be liable. Over to you, Renee.
Hi, Martyn. Thank you very much for your session. I'm actually just quickly going to read what I had written. We're in an accommodation business. So if you have a guest stay, they've checked out and you've cleaned to the best of your ability according to your COVID cleaning procedures. The next guest is checked in and have stayed for 2 days already, but now it becomes apparent that the previous guest was actually COVID positive while they stayed. The next guest that is checked in has contracted COVID, and as they have comorbidities, they get really ill and die. So can they sue me, and does my current liability insurance cover us for that?
Well, from to cover that in two parts is what we've seen in the last probably, I'd say probably 14 to 16 months is total coronavirus exclusions placed on policies. So I would say that if you've got a total coronavirus exclusion under your policy, no, you wouldn't be insured. However, your situation is quite, it's a very good question. But what the advice we would say to our clients is that, look, anyone can sue anyone. It's their right. It's their constitutional right to, if they wish to litigate against someone if they like. But what you've got to try and do is manage that. And one thing would be to, if you follow all the government protocols, follow set policies and procedures, and also, but what I say to my clients, if you go above and beyond what the government says, do this, and you go, right, well, we actually do more cleaning, we do this, we do vaporizing, we go above and beyond what our legal requirement will be from a government perspective. And then the hard thing is that guests without negative or impact reviews in our business is very difficult, because people they don't tell the full story. They're happy to tell everything that's negative, but they didn't tell you the good things you did by allowing them to check in early and all those sort of things. So managing social media reviews is very difficult, even for restaurants or hotels or any tourism operator. But what we say is that I would then be, advice would say to our clients, I would be focusing more on promoting and say, we're a COVID safe business, and this is why we're a COVID safe business. This is what we do. This is how we ensure that your stay is going to be the best above all. And you can't guarantee that no one will get it. And the thing is, did they catch it at your place, or did they catch it at the service station that they just filled up in when they came into your town? So this is the challenge around the COVID, Renee. But it's a good question. And as I said, my advice would be to my clients is make sure you have a set policies and procedures for cleaning, and go above and beyond what the government or what the council or what the local authorities or the authorities say that you should be doing.
Thank you very much.
So that's right. So if you do get into a court of law, you can say, Your Honour, this is what we do, and this is why we do it. We go above and beyond, and this is how we do. But as I said, anyone can litigate against anyone. It's just that if your lawyer or your insurer has a good case to protect you, makes it a lot easier. But the key for you would be just to check your liability wording to see if there's a total coronavirus exclusion. And so, as again, I've come back to, I quite often do presentations, but I call it devil in the detail, because you actually when you buy insurance, you buy a contract. So it could be hidden in clause 42C that you're not covered for this. But unless you point it out, or unless you read the document, you'll never see it or understand it. So, yeah. So thanks, Renee.
No, thanks, Martyn, and thanks, Renee, for that question. And also further to that point, Renee, I hosted an in-conversation last week with Wallman's Lawyers. They're a partner of CICSA as well. And I would recommend just to reach out with them from the law perspective. Obviously, Martyn can share that great insurance perspective and what you can be doing in terms of your going over and above, you know, government guidelines, making sure you've got your standard, your procedures and policies in place as well. And noting to that in conversation I had with Woolmans, it is back again to those procedures and policies in your workplace health and safety policy as well at this. So that was a note that was pulled out of that last in conversation as well. But Renee, reach out if you'd like the further contact of Woolmans as well to talk the law perspective on that question as well. Fabulous. Well, unless there's any other questions, oh, you're welcome. Unless there's any other further questions, guys, I'll sign off and thank you to Martyn for your time and expertise today. You've helped many, you're becoming a really familiar face in our community and helped many a member with the challenges they have faced over the last 18 months. We understand insurance is a big issue for you guys, for our members. So, you know, as Martyn has said, feel free to reach out to them. I'll flick you some contact, all our people on this call, some contact details afterwards. As you can see today, Martyn's very generous with his time and has some good perspective for us to all to share. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Martyn.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
I will do. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. Thank you.